All right. Thank you very much for joining. My name is Reuven Zabirov, and this is a webinar about the power of Descope Flows, focusing on customer identity orchestration. So yeah, as I said, my name is Reuven Zabirov. I'm from Descope, located in Tel Aviv, Israel. My hobbies are playing video games, and I have a pet chihuahua called Milo. Inside this webinar, we'll talk about a little bit about Descope, why do we need to orchestrate our data, and we'll focus on using HubSpot, Segment, and Datadog. So what is Descope? Descope basically is a customer identity and access management platform. Basically, you can drag and drop your authentication, customize the login screen, authenticate the user at the end, set up multi-factor authentication steps, handle errors inside the flow itself, collect data about the user, and at the end also to connect to third-party applications, which we'll cover in this webinar. All right, so what are connectors? Connectors are basically third-party tools that you can connect to Descope in order to stream and also take data from third-party applications. In this webinar, we'll cover Segment, HubSpot, and Datadog. Okay, so the main question is why basically do we need to orchestrate our data, our customer identity? Sometimes for security visibility, if you want to detect things like brute force or privilege escalation, for your security team to basically have the visibility so you can stream that data from Descope. Another thing is business intelligence. If you want to A/B test your app, to do like feature analytics, to see how many people use a specific feature inside your application. And finally, to discover bugs before your customer does. All right, so let's jump right into Descope. The first use case is to basically create a deal in HubSpot. I'll show you guys how it's done. All right. Just a second. All right, so this is Descope. For those of you who don't know, what we'll do is to basically create this screen using the wizard. The wizard basically lets you automate the process of creating flows that suits your use case. What we'll do is basically choose here business to business. We'll choose Magic Link and social login as our factors of authentication. We'll go ahead and also skip multi-factor authentication. And finally, let the wizard generate the flows. Once it's generated, we can basically copy and paste this code inside your app, and the flow will basically be executed there. Of course, this is all customizable. I'll show you later how it's done and how we'll utilize it to create a deal in HubSpot. But first of all, we can also use this sample app, which basically takes our project ID and the flow ID, and we can see that our flow is basically executed here. All right, let's get back. So we will utilize the sign in or up flow, which is shown here inside the sample app. For that to be done, we'll need to, first of all, connect our connectors. So I have predefined the connectors beforehand, but if you want to do that on your own, you can basically search for the specific connector here inside the marketplace and go ahead and set up a name and an access token, which are also, we cover it in our documentation. You can see it here inside the help guide. And also, if you want further details, you can all go ahead and click on this button and go ahead to the documentation. We cover how you can get the API token that is needed in order to create the HubSpot connector. And later on, I'll show you also how it's done in the next connectors. All right, so let's go back and go ahead and modify the SignUper in flow. This flow basically, I'll show you guys how it's being executed. If I'm using continue with Google, it will basically ask for my full name. And here I am connected to the sample app. Let's log out and delete my user. And let's go back to the flow. So the flow consists of the welcome screen, which collects the user email, or if the user clicks on continue with Google, basically logs them in using OAuth, checks if this user is new to the system, checking if the email is verified or not. If it's not verified, in cases like Microsoft OAuth, it's also will send a magic link to the email to verify it. But using Google, you basically only collect the information and update the user and give him the JOT to continue to log in into the system. So what I will do here is to basically take this flow and to add HubSpot on top of it in order to create a deal every time a person logs in into a system, utilizing the information screen that collected my first name and last name. All right, so first of all, I will just edit this screen, use a single select input. It's important to put a context key. Basically, the answer that the user will choose will be populated here. I will just name this select plan. Sorry. All right. And the values will be pro and enterprise. By my definitions, those are the two plans that a user can choose. I won't collect any other information. I will just create a deal that will only be like a first impression of the user of what he wants to basically buy at the end. So I'll make this field mandatory and save. All right. So the next step is basically to triage based on what the user will choose. So I will add a condition that will check if the user has chosen the pro plan. Otherwise, it will be enterprise. So utilizing the context key, form.plan equals pro, and I'll call this condition plan. All right, let's connect this step to the condition. And right now, the next step will be to create the deal specifically. So how it is done inside Descope Flows, really easy by clicking on this blue sign after we have already set up the connector and just adding the connector from here. Of course, we have a lot of things you can do with HubSpot, also with Segment. But for this demo, I will just use HubSpot create deal. All right, so once we drop that component inside our grid, we can see that it prompts up this screen. It asks for a deal name, which is mandatory, and the other things are not. I will, for the purpose of this demo, will use deal name as Descope deal and use a custom field called user.email. And I'll put the amount to be $1,000 by my definition for a pro plan. Of course, you can use also deal stage, pipeline, and HubSpot owner ID as fields you can populate, all lowercase, by the way, to match basically any pipeline or deal stage you have inside HubSpot, which is a definition that people who use HubSpot will know. Sometimes your sales team wants to create a deal starting at a specific stage or to let it go through a specific pipeline. For this sake, I will not use it. Okay, so I'll connect this condition here, copy this action, edit it, call this enterprise, and change the amount to $5,000 by my definition. Connect the enterprise to this condition, to this action, sorry, and connect both of the actions to the end of the flow. All right, let's save and test this out. Back at our sample app, let's refresh the page, and let's continue with Google again. All right, so now I'm prompted with my name and also a plan that I want to choose. I will choose Pro and submit. As you can see that after choosing the plan, I am logged into the system. You can basically give the user a specific screen or anything that you want to choose based on the plan. We also provide this information. You can like put this information inside your custom claims and basically redirect your customer to any kind of page you want based on this plan. So as you can see here, inside HubSpot, I've created an organization that I use the API key for. And here we have the deal created. As you can see, the deal has been created with $1,000. And if you go inside, you can see that it was created right now. Okay, so this is basically the power that we can show that how you can use HubSpot with our platform with Descope. The next use case will be using Segment. Segment can help you track your user journey and provide analytics on how the user is doing, and a lot of things that you can do with Segment. So let's go back to Descope. All right. So inside Descope, I will use the same flow actually, and I will just utilize Segment in order to track the user when he will create a new user inside Descope, and I will also track the option of a deal has been created, which you can then utilize inside Segment. Okay, so I will use a connector action of identify, and I will put it right before, right after, sorry, the user has been logged in. Once again, we are prompted with this screen, different screen, but this is specifically for identify. So I'll use user.userid in order to have some sort of connection back to Descope and add a trait, which will later be queried inside Segment. Called email, sorry, using user.email. All right. And I will connect, as I said, after the user has been verified, logged in, I will just use Segment identify. Because this is a sign up or end screen, so the user identify will take action on both of the scenarios, whether it's sign in or up, in order to identify every session the user has inside our system. All right. The second thing is, I haven't mentioned it before, but new users who signed up to our system are basically prompted with choosing the plan. But if you are already signed up to your application using Descope Flow, you will not be prompted with the plan. I can demonstrate this right here. I'm continuing with Google and right away signed in without choosing a plan. All right, so yeah, back to the flow. I will add segment track. Right after the deal has been created with a specific event that I will call Descope deal created. Again, utilizing the user.userid in order to have a specific connection to Descope, and add a property called, again, email, user.email. All right. So I will add this, as I said, right after the deal has been created. Sorry for the mess. I will just, I will align it right after connecting the dots. All right, so as I said, after the deal has been created, I will use segment track. Of course, inside track, you can use the deal ID or anything that you want to add to the context of the event itself, which is very powerful to track. You have the answer from HubSpot populated inside this context key, which you can use here inside segment track. And I will just connect this to the end. For testing purposes, I will delete the user that I used to log in with. And let's test this out in our sample app. All right, I'll refresh the page and continue with Google. All right. For the sake of showing you guys that this actually works, I will just use Enterprise here, click on Submit, and get logged in into my sample app. As you can see here inside HubSpot, HubSpot, I have now a new deal on 5,000, which is the enterprise deal that I chose right now. Okay, so this is HubSpot, but let's focus on Segment. I have created a source specifically for this webinar, and let's see if the events has shown here inside my source. Let's go to the debugger and see that we have two new track and identify. One is track. Of course, it creates a specific. This is the Descope user ID, and this is the email. Of course, it's deducted for security purposes. But as you can see, these events has been shown, and you can utilize now Segment in order to track your user and forward this on to wherever you want. Okay, so this is Segment. Let's go back to the slides. The last use case will be using Datadog. And Datadog, for those of you who don't know, is a big data lake kind of application that lets you create dashboards and to work on your data and create maybe alerts and that kind of stuff. DevOps people use it, security people use it, everyone uses it. Pretty popular technology. Before going into Datadog, I'll show you that the connector is a bit different. You can't use Datadog inside of Flow, but I have predefined this connector, which basically consists of a name, an API key, and this part. The API key, again, can be queried through Datadog. We have all the documentation right here and also inside our Docs app. All right, so here inside Datadog, basically we can choose to stream all of the events. For those of you who don't know, we have this tab called Audit and Troubleshoot, which consists of all of the events that happen to the system. That includes login succeeded and login failed. Back to the connectors page and to Datadog, I have chosen to stream only filter events consisting of an action that includes login failed and login succeeded. Because we already did some events, meaning that we logged in and a couple of times. I have already some data inside my Datadog that I will show you right now. Of course, this is in the past few minutes. I can show you that the last 7 days, I have more login succeeded, login failed events. What I did here inside Datadog is to basically utilize the logs that I get from Descope in order to create a security dashboard. Sorry. That security dashboard can help your security team to identify and maybe show metrics to higher ups about what's happening in their organization. And of course, you can use any kind of event that you get from Descope in order to track your users or identify anomalies. Okay, going back to the dashboard, I will create with you a new widget. Here, a new graph, sorry, and to demonstrate how powerful this can be. I have created faucets inside Datadog. For those of you who don't know, basically, it will just parse a specific field. I have parsed the Descope action to be able to be used here. And I will just use login succeeded and login failed as the filter. All right. This purpose is to filter out any other events that are not login succeeded, login failed. I will show a count of Descope login IDs, which basically are the way to define a specific user. And I'll do that again by the action. Right here, as you can see, I've created a really powerful graph that you can use inside your dashboard that shows how many people have login failed and succeeded in the past week. Let's name it logins and save it. And here you go. You have a really cool dashboard that you can use inside your security team. And all of that data came from Descope. All right. This is for the third use case. All right, so thank you very much for joining. If you want to start using Descope, you can just follow up on this link, start for free. Of course, everything that I've talked about, the using of integrations, the flows, the connectors themselves are all mentioned inside our documentation. And again, thank you for joining, and I'm open up for questions right now. All right, I can see that someone asked about the top use cases for including Datadog. All right, let's go back to Datadog. So yeah, as I showed, doing like security dashboards are really powerful. But another thing that I seen customers do is to create monitors, which basically will give you the ability to alert anything that is like in high, like in a high standard of alerting. Let's say, for example, an administrator's role has been changed. So you want to have like an alert, that will be triggered from Datadog, and it will basically be like an alert, and instead of just looking at a dashboard that your security team can do. I hope that answers the question. The second question I can see here is how long are audit logs saved in Descope? Okay, so yeah, another thing that you can basically use Datadog for is to save logs for longer, because we at Descope save it for 30 days at tops. And of course, if you want to have a longer retention, you should stream those logs into any third-party applications that you want. I can see a question about how is multi-factor configured. Okay, going back to Descope. Of course, you can, with this wizard, create a multi-factor authentication. If I go back here, you can see that this is a step you can choose to have a multi-factor authentication. And let's say those are the primary factors that you can choose from, either social login or magic link. And let's say I want to have an OTP as a second factor authentication. This is one way of doing it, and I can show you that this works. All right, so right now, because I've chosen one-time password, it will ask for my phone number, and basically it will later on, after setting up the message here, it will log me into the sample app. Sorry. So another way you can use multi-factor authentication is basically use the flow to customize them. Again, let's say I have a sign-in flow and I want to add another factor of authentication. You can just use it here. And after, let's say a person has logged in using OAuth, just add another factor of authentication. Let's say a OTP SMS. sign in OTP SMS, and just drag this here and connect the signing off here into the second factor of the authentication. Let's see. All right, there's a question about SAML OIDC, Enterprise SSO. How can users be merged on based on existing users' email address? All right, so basically using the authentication method of SSO, you can, whether it's IDP initiated or not, you can basically merge the existing user email inside a flow using an action of update user once you verify the email. And this can be done by using update user. Hope this answers the question. Update user properties. All right, and let's say this is like form.email, which will merge the property. All right, I'll just go ahead and show another audit logs that you can basically use. We have login succeeded, we have also login failed, but also if you want to maybe monitor things that happen inside your Descope, you can also flow, like export these logs into your third-party application. Let's say we have actions here like flow updated, user modified, and user deleted. All of these things basically happen inside Descope, but if you want to monitor Descope itself, you can also stream these logs into your third-party applications. And another thing is we have logs about maybe changing the role of a user, like I mentioned before with the admin use case. Basically, you can monitor if someone like changes a role of your admin, of one of your admins, and also alert that using Datadog. Right, let's see if there are any other questions. Waiting up on a few more questions. Okay. So again, thank you very much for coming for this webinar. Hope you enjoyed. Again, my name is Reuven Zabirov. I'm a DevRel here inside Descope. Feel free to start using Descope. And thank you again. And I guess have a nice day.